Okay, we're going fast. I got lost in the count. I think this is interview number 10 or something like that.
Always a good number 10, right?
Welcome. Who are you and what brings you to JFall?
Well, my name is Urs Peter. I'm actually going to JFall since my youth, I would say, at least my youth in my career in that sense. So about for the fifth, sixth time.
And you're a speaker I see on your badge, so you have a talk. What is it about?
I'm a frequent speaker here, so I'm very glad I was selected again this year. This year I will talk about generative AI, then especially how you can unlock its power on the GVM with frameworks like LangChain for J or Spring AI.
And we already talked about Project Panama, for instance, to make it easier to interact with other libraries, C libraries. Is that also something you see related to generative AI?
Yeah, what you see is that these LLMs, they start to get more protocols that are kind of compatible across different LLMs. And for this, you need actually frameworks so that you can swap one LLM with the other and still maintain the same code.
Okay. So you're using LangChain for J. I've experimented with it only briefly. So, but what it tries to do, this library, is indeed bring you one API to be able to talk to many LLMs, right?
Exactly, that is what it more or less is. So there are many abstractions, so you can define the LLM you would like to talk to, but it's not only LLMs, it's also vector stores. That's a term which is used for, there are all kind of fancy terms, and I don't know if the listeners are aware of them, but the vector store allows to do something like similarity search, which is also a big thing in AI. And also for these kind of applications, they have their nice abstractions.
What demonstration do you give during the presentation?
Yeah, so what I try to achieve in this presentation is, first of all, to bring the concepts that are in AI, like what we just talked about, vectorization, talking to LLM, prompt engineering, and the like, a bit closer to developers. So in that sense, I will also show the critical parts of LLM. They are kind of hyped to be the next big thing that can solve everything, and I'm clearly going to show that they can do a lot, but there are also quite some serious limitations we have to deal with. And I do this by building live an application where you'll encounter all the different concepts, but also the struggles and challenges you will encounter along the way.
For people who are used to doing Java development for business applications, stuff like, how difficult is it to get into this AI stuff?
The nice thing is, before actually this whole generative AI hype, you had data science, and that was very math heavy. But now I think we met a bit some sort of middle ground where you as developer just pick a model. You don't make the model yourself, but you just pick a model that does the task you think it does, or if it doesn't, you choose another model. So once you understand the concepts, you can quite quickly create cool new stuff without being a data scientist and all the mathematical knowledge that is normally required. So I said, what's important is to understand the concepts, what you can do with it. Once you have that, then you pick your framework, you pick the right models to do your use case, and off you go.
Within these LLMs, you have this hallucination, they call it, I guess, so that the model starts coming up with answers which are not right. Is that still a big issue? Is it something you can help your model to prevent it?
It's a very good question, and it is still a very big issue. And my conclusion, and it's not only my conclusion, it just was recently a report from Apple and Meta, so companies that are very close to the fire when it comes to AI, they come to the same conclusion because the core of these models is that they are not made to reason. They are made to predict text that sounds nice. This is the core of all the LLMs. And now there are also in the industry a bit hyped this kind of engine that can reason. You have the latest model of OpenAI, O1, it's Strawberry, which even has some reasoning capabilities. But I said the core is flawed. So if you expect these models to reason, I think you're going to be very disappointed. Which doesn't mean that they can't do valuable things, but if you expect them to reason correctly like humans, I think, you will have your nightmares yourself.
So this is a clear message we have to add here. So a text model is just predicting the most plausible next words.
That's exactly what LLMs do. And they do this as such that you as a user, because they're trained with so much data, think they can reason. I compared in my talk, short preview in that sense, with a parrot. A parrot can also make noises we humans understand, but the parrot itself has no clue what it's all about. The LLM is trained with a lot of data, so it's a parrot that has swallowed all the books in the world, So you really think this is a smart parrot, but he has no clue what he's talking about.
That's a nice comparison. I didn't hear that one before.
Yeah, just came up by myself. So sometimes you get these.
Yeah, that's a nice one. That's one to remember. Okay, are there other talks that?
But so also important to maybe mention, general when you do these conferences, often people think they may have to make a talk about something they're very maturing. I often actually do the other way around. I find a subject interesting, like AI, and then I just sign myself in for a talk. Luckily, I'm selected, and then I have to kind of really dive into it and figure out how things work. So that's why in this conference also actually joining all the AI talks to see whether my message and what I try to convey is a bit in line with the rest. And so far I'm quite satisfied.
You mentioned LangChain for J. Are there other libraries which you know of within the Java world related to AI?
Yeah, definitely. So LangChain for Chain was also probably the first, and later on Spring AI joined. So these are actually the two dominating libraries where you can do stuff that is more or less production ready.
I don't know Spring AI. I didn't try it. I tried LangChain for J. I know that they have a lot of examples, so it's very easy to get started.
It's very easy to get started. I also compared the two in my talk, and to be honest, in terms of features, they're more or less comparable. It's just a bit a flavor thing. So one framework addresses in a certain way. Spring, of course, has a lot of magic just by having some configuration, whereas LangChain for J is a bit more modular. You have to configure yourself, but you also know what you're doing instead of just getting some beans you're not really aware of what they're doing. And what's definitely a big difference is that LangChain for J also can use with other frameworks like Quarkus, Micronaut, Keytor, whereas Spring AI, of course, is only for the Spring users, whereas Spring still dominates the market with 90% market share. So, well.
Okay, it's a good trade-off.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here, and have fun.